What's going on, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. Also, thank you to everyone who subscribed, rated, commented, viewed any of my older videos, as well as those of you who have shared my content on your social media platforms. Thank you so much for the love and the support. I really appreciate it. So thank you for that. And yes, as you can tell, I did cut my locks over the weekend. I didn't record it, so I'm sorry if you wanted to see that, but I will kind of get into some of the reasons why I decided to cut my hair. It kind of plays into my insecurities, and that's a video that I'm going to do either later this week or sometime next week. So if you want to hear my reasoning for cutting my hair, you will know within the coming weeks. So but thank you to everyone who has complimented me on the new look. I like it a lot too. I'm very happy that I did it. But anyways, that's not what this video is about. So many of us are well aware of the socially conscious community. Many times the socially conscious community focuses on how the system works against us as an African American community in general, and also how the system mainly works against the African American heterosexual community. And I point out the African American heterosexual men because many times when I hear that being discussed, or when I see that being discussed on YouTube, those in the socially conscious community feel as though those of us in the LGBT community are part of the problem, or part of the system, or take part in that somehow. So yeah, take that however you decide. But can I acknowledge that there are things that work against us as an African American community and as African American men? Absolutely. And I don't know that I've experienced that directly. However, I do know that many of my African American brothers and sisters do experience that directly. So I definitely acknowledge that wholeheartedly, and I understand why many of us in the African American community are fed up with it. However, I believe that it's more important to take responsibility for our actions and what we do and how we respond to those barriers that are put up that may slow us down or may try to stop us from accomplishing those things that we want to accomplish, or getting to those goals that we set for ourselves. For example, when it comes to education, I admit that I grew up in a middle-class home. The school that I went to, elementary, middle, and high school, predominantly white, and yeah, of course, we were the minority, and so did that allow me to have better opportunities as an adolescent? Absolutely. However, for those of you who did not grow up in the middle class, maybe might have grown up in poverty, maybe have gone to a school that was predominantly black or predominantly Latino or not predominantly white, and feel as though that your education you might not have had the opportunities that you would have if you did attend a school that was predominantly white. I definitely understand where you may come from. However, at the same time, it's still most important, and I stress that it's most important, that we take responsibility for our actions. Now, are we going to take our situation, take our surroundings, and use that as an excuse for us not excelling? Or are we going to do the best we can with the cards that we've been dealt to be sure that we lead by example, and we don't become a statistic? It's in our hands, especially those of us who are grown, those of us who have the who should take responsibility for what we do or how we go about our daily lives. For instance, when it comes to higher education, it's well aware that minorities are not accepted nearly as often as our white brothers and sisters are when it comes to applying to those non-HBCU colleges, or especially those Ivy League schools. So are we going to take that fact that we know for sure is a fact and use it as an excuse to complain about it and just leave it there and not do anything? Or are we going to lead by example, apply to those schools, and apply ourselves so that we can prove the system wrong? So again, Is it important for us to acknowledge the system? Sure, absolutely. However, I think it's more important that we lead by example, that we prove the system wrong, that we prove that we are more than your statistics, that we are more than those negative stereotypes that are so often placed on us as an African American community. Also, another example, when it comes to the prison system, do we overpopulate the prison system by a large margin as minorities? Absolutely. And I don't think there's anyone in America that will not acknowledge that. However, let's look at the reason why. Most people that are in the prison system are 18 and older. So those of us who are 18 and older, we have to take responsibility for our actions. And so, yes, many times those who are in the prison system do not grow up in the best type of situation. Might be single parent homes. It might be that they find it hard to get a job based on where they live, based on their color, whatever the case may be. However, at the end of the day, you're responsible for your actions. So if you really want to put a ratio to it, how much of it is the system and how much of it is based on your personal actions and how you take your situation and decide, well, what is going to be my future? We decide our futures. There's nothing anyone can tell me that's going to determine what I'm going to do, what I'm going to accomplish, what I set, what goals I set to accomplish. I'm not going to let that deter me. I'm not going to let that bring my spirits down. Absolutely not. That's unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. I am going to set the goals that I have for my life. Also set, line them up with whatever God wants me to do. I'm also going to have certain accomplishments that I want to achieve, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that happens. The main issue that I have is that those who are the loudest in the socially conscious community typically don't lead by example. And I am just here to suggest that we do our best to change that.